Okay, so for our second lesson of the scientific method is the scientific method itself, right? Again, let me discuss with you the objectives of this lesson. You must have defined scientific method at the end of this lesson, identify the components of an investigation research problem, hypothesis, method of testing, the hypothesis, conclusion based on evidence. Formulate hypothesis, collect, organize, and interpret data about the investigation, and formulate conclusion based on the data, right? So let's answer the pretest on a separate sheet of paper, only the answer. Mario says that the plant withered because of the direct exposure to sunlight. He has performed which step in scientific method? Did he perform the conclusion, hypothesis, experimenting, or analyzing the gathered data? Number two, what part of scientific method tells us the real answer to the problem? Is it the conclusion, the hypothesis? Is it by doing the experiment or by analyzing the gathered data? Number three, which of the following is not a part of scientific method? Coaching, conclusion, experimenting, or identifying a problem? Number four, do taller athletes reach finish line after than shorter ones? Coaching, conclusion, experimenting, identifying. So which scientific step of scientific method is are you doing? And number four question. Number five, when a medical technologist performs such as blood tests, urinalysis, fecalysis, and x-rays, he is performing what? Is he generalizing? Is he experimenting? Is he identifying the problem? Or is he analyzing gathered data? Answer only. We have discussed the concept of fair test in the lesson 1. Doing fair test, we introduce the concept of necessary elements of a fair test. Again, when we do fair test, change only one thing and keep all other variables constant. Alright? The scientific method is a series of process that people can use to gather knowledge. Remember, process. Series of process. We do not just jump into a conclusion without doing a series of process or processes. The world around them to improve that knowledge and through gaining knowledge attempt to explain why and how things occur. So in science, we always do scientific method to answer the questions that we have in mind. Every scientific experiment performed as an example of the scientific method in action, but it is also used by non-scientists in this situation. This method involves making observations. Right? We will be discussing observation later part of the lesson. So these are the steps of scientific method. 1. Alright? So moment. Identifying the problem. By asking a measurable question you want to solve. Remember, measurable question. Do not ask a question which you cannot measure. Alright? What are this? What are these questions that are immeasurable? Like, how many stars are there in the sky? Can you count them in your lifetime? No, you can't. So that's immeasurable question. Only ask questions which are measurable. Next, once you ask a questions, once you already have a problem in your mind, formulate a hypothesis. What is a hypothesis? Also known as tentative answer. A tentative answer. For example, you have a questions like which is sweeter, a sugar cane or an apple? So you must have a tentative answer. Oh, probably it's the sugar cane. Oh, probably it is the apple. So that's how to give a tentative answer based from the problem. The next, of course, you have to test the hypothesis. Once you have a temporary answer to your mind, you have to test it if it's right or wrong by what? Testing it. So a test or procedure to find out if your hypothesis is correct. So if your hypothesis is which is sweeter, or the sugar cane is much more sweeter compared to the apple, so you have to taste them both for you to be able to answer the questions which is sweeter, the sugar cane or the apple. In the testing of hypothesis, by the way, you have to do experimenting. You test hypothesis by experimenting. And then while doing the experiment, of course, you have to record and analyze the data. Record. In recording the data, you must be objective. What do you mean by objective? Do not put your own personal feeling on that. Do not favor one thing. Always be objective. Always be fair. Always gather the correct data. Do not manipulate your data. Alright? If that's what you see, then record it. If you don't see it, don't hear it, don't smell it, don't record it. Only the things that you observe that you're going to record. And after recording and analyzing the data, you have to do the conclusion. Proves or disprove your hypothesis. If all the informations, the data gathered want to favor your hypothesis, then say no. Even if you want it to be right. If the data says no, then it's a no. If the data says yes, then it is a yes. So the conclusion must disprove or proves the hypothesis. Alright? So that's how to conduct a scientific, simple step of conducting scientific method. Alright? Now let me try if you have understand or understood the concepts of scientific method. Scenario. Nana wants to determine which detergent is the best. There are too many detergent brands at the sari-sari store. So before buying any, she first asked other housewives to know which detergent each one considered the best. There were various responses, but she decided to consider only the top four choices. The top four are malinis, maputi, mabango, and matipid. She bought these detergent brands from the nearby sari-sari store. She thought that maputi, the most expensive brand, would be the best. Nana decided to use one brand of detergent to each time she washed clothes. For each brand, she took note of how long the detergent lasted, how pleasant the smell of those clothes were after they had been washed, and how well the detergent got rid of dirt. After observing all these, she was convinced that Malinis was the best detergent. It lasted longer than all three other detergents. Clothes that were washed with Malinis has the most pleasant smell. This brand also got rid of dirt faster than all the other detergents. Nana was glad to know that the most expensive brand is not necessarily the best all the time. So you have to take note of some of the important details in this particular situation, right? Arrange the steps of scientific methods. Arrange the statements according to the steps. So first, you have to arrange this on your paper. Which is the first, which is the second, the third, the fifth, and the last. Arrange this according to the manner they occur in the experiment. After you have arranged this, you copy this statement and place this opposite to the step. For example, identifying the problem. Then you look which one is the problem, but you have to arrange this first, from the first to the last step, and then this one also according to the step, right, on a separate sheet of paper. Remember, scientific method is a series of process that people can use to gather knowledge about the world around them, improve the knowledge through getting knowledge, them to explain, and how things occur in the environment. Scientific methods involves identifying the problem, formulating hypotheses, doing experiment, gathering, analyzing data, and make a conclusion. Let's check your understanding. Fill the table with the correct information. Provide the possible problem, hypothesis, and conclusion based from the given data. So this is the data. 3 water faucet adjusting their openings, closed, half open, and fully open. Timer 1 minute and container with measurement in liter. Same amount of sugar, hot and cold water stirring rod. So what is the problem? What do you think is the hypothesis? What do you think would be the conclusion? All right. So you have to think of the problem for this. You have to think of problem for this. Hypothesis for this. So where will you get your hypothesis? From the problem that you think of. What do you think is the possible problem for this data? The data is given to you, you think of a problem. And of course, the conclusion. So let's answer the post test. Write on a separate sheet of paper. Mario says that the plant got weathered because of the direct exposure to sunlight. Yes, perform which step in scientific method? Conclusion, hypothesis, experimenting, or analyzing the gathered data. Do taller athletes reach finish line after than shorter ones? Coaching, conclusion, experimenting, identifying a problem. When a medical technologist performs such as blood test, urinalysis, and fecalysis, and X-rays, he is performing what? Generalizing, experimenting, identifying the problem, analyzing the gathered data. What part of the scientific method tells us the real answer to the problem? Conclusion, experimenting, hypothesis, analyzing the gathered data. And number 5, which of the following is not part of a scientific method? Alright?